Karen mentioned the whole career thing, and I'll talk to that later if you want to talk about it specifically, because certainly in my career doing career coaching, I've had just the sheer pleasure of working with lots of people, and some of whom who've had some really tough situations to have to manage with regards to sexual harassment, and assist them in how they manage that from a career point of view, and about speaking up versus not speaking up, and whether that'll have an impact. So we do know clearly that there's, I think, in your comment, Karen, around the prevalence was striking. All three of the women who helped me put this presentation together all told me those who are having to manage this reality, finding somebody in whom they can trust to go for guidance. And I appreciated your comments around mentoring earlier on. That we have. I hope you all get a mentor. Get many of them. And they offer us different things. There's no one-size-fits-all mentors. But clearly in all three of the cases today where I spoke to my colleagues, they all said they had turned to somebody that had offered them guidance. Maybe not offered them guidance in other things in terms of their career or their work, but in this one issue, they were able to turn. I think there certainly are instances that I was privy to where the individual who sat in my office and swore me to confidence and tested my ethics to some degree, because you can't unring a bell. When I was a director of HR and people bring me these situations and they would say to me, "You can't talk about this." That's pretty tough stuff for anybody. But the notion here is one that says, certainly I sat idly by and watched individuals attempt to manage this situation on their own, with the harasser, and in some instances with great success. And I say sat idly by because I don't like biting my tongue, but in essence, in some instances, that was the thing I had to do by virtue of my trust and confidence with them. But I think there are situations where that may make sense. I also think there are situations where clearly you can use these approaches that we have been taught in terms of being clear on, when you do this, it makes me feel this way, this is why it bothers me, and this is what I want from you to be different. That kind of script I've seen used with great success. I've also seen it used to absolutely no result whatsoever. And it required individuals who had attempted to deal with these issues on their own as witness to very powerful letters being written and provided to a harasser. That worked. That absolutely worked. Because paper trails are interesting things. Paper trails are very interesting. And there's lots of advice in this field that says, create a paper trail, if ever you are in that situation. By virtue of notes, diaries, copies of emails, all of those kinds of things, right? Paper trails are powerful tools, as you may know, very little trying to tell you a whole lot. If it gets to that level, I've certainly seen great outcomes coming out of difficult situations where investigations were involved. But it does require somebody to step up, speak out, cooperate. And I'm also very sensitive to the fact that not every employer has that kind of ability to support you when you are trying to manage this situation. And again, my pal today said, tell them, the Human Rights Commission will help. And she's just passionate about the fact that there are outside bodies, right? That if your employer, if you're being stonewalled, go outside. And there are avenues there for your history. It's where you want your kids to work. So it's one of the best tests, So it's absolutely one of the best tests. I had a junior HR person come to me, guy, said, I don't know what the come to me and they explain to me what's happening to them. I don't know if it's harassment or not. If it was happening to your kids, what advice would you have? And I often work with leaders and managers, and you should see the look on their face. I work with a hard-nosed bunch of, oh man, they're tough nuts. And they were talking to me about basically beating the crap out of employees. Yeah. This was their job. And men, women didn't matter. And there was one of them. Anyway, the notion came, I said, you should treat them the way you'd want your daughter to. And look, the look on the man's face. He got it. It just went bang, right? He lit into every one of the others. You can't talk to them anymore like this. If your daughter, and then he starts naming their daughters, right? Right? If Chloe was here, you wouldn't talk to her like that, would you? No. Well, creating respectful workplaces is really about creating an environment where you'd be, where these things are coming. Where these things are coming, right? Where courtesy and respect and treatment with dignity rules the day. And I will tell you some great examples of some organizations, large and small. Because as much as I railed against some small and medium-sized enterprises earlier on and said I've witnessed some things, I've also witnessed the opposite. I've been in the room when the employee makes a comment about a gay worker. And I have watched a rough and tumble owner, boss, supervisor stand up and create, basically establish, this is not how we talk about things. So as much as in the early part of my conversation I said that institutional employers have done a reasonable job in terms of putting some stuff into effect and have done a reasonable job, not a great job, not a perfect job, but a reasonable job of enforcing and doing. Small and medium-sized enterprise has not necessarily had the benefit. I've also seen it, largely based on the value system of the owner. When the value system of the owner is in the right place, and they believe in this, they'll police their workforce. And they do great work. They do an absolutely great job. No policy, no handbook, no training. But they will pull people aside, respectfully, and will say, training, and when you're done with that, do some more training, and then on the alternate weeks, do a little more training. Policy's okay, good to have. Holding people accountable is where the effort is, right? So it's great to have policies and procedures, but some organizations really rise to the, I've seen some organizations, man, it's like pulling a fire alarm. I've been treated in an inappropriate manner. And like you, I've seen organizations where you pull that same fire alarm and nothing's about doing the right thing.
Absolutely.
It's that simple. And you know, I talk with employers all the time and they say, well, yeah, but you know, not everybody was raised. Their upbringing wasn't such that they necessarily see the right and the wrong around issues of harassment, bullying, and sexual harassment. And that's great, you know, as leaders, our job is to teach.
Sexual harassment being under an umbrella of harassment in general, and how you felt that it was, or it should be sort of separated.
Standing on its own.
Okay, and